And at the end of the day, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, or maybe even sooner, we may have a conversation and we may be able to say that there is a democracy in Libya and that the United States had a role to play in it. And I think that we're all very proud of that. And I think that I certainly, having worked for the last 6 months with the President and Secretary of State, can say that we took the right path on this one. And I think the concept of smart power has been a good one. And we look forward to going back to Libya and helping them build their new nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Cretz, for that clear, candid, and comprehensive account. Ambassador Cretz has agreed to take a few questions from the audience. Again, let me remind you, this is on the record, and please come to the microphone here at the center and state your name and your affiliation. And then after very few questions, then we'll continue with the rest of our panel on the humanitarian situation in Libya. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leah Wisso from the Public International Law and Policy Group. I was just wondering if you had any particular concerns regarding how the international response and international backing of the TNC might affect its legitimacy going forward?
Well, I think that by saying, number one, that this will be a Libyan-led process, that we recognize that we have to be very sensitive about the position of the TNC. I mean, it's clear that the no boots on the ground was not only arose out of a domestic imperative here in the United States, but out of a sense that that would be a very difficult issue for the TNC. So we've been very careful, and I think our allied partners have been as well. And so I don't. We understand the sensitivities. They're in a very difficult position because they have to really establish legitimacy and credibility with the whole population. Parts of which don't know who they are. Parts of which are very skeptical of them. And for us to be seen as a quote unquote Western imperialists attempting to reimpose ourselves or to intervene would be a very dangerous thing for them. So I don't think it's going to be a problem, quite honestly.
Thank you. We already have quite a long line, so we're going to cut the line off there. So if I could just ask you not to join the line after we complete this. Thank you.
Ken Meyer, Court World Docs. You have echoed Secretary Clinton's statement that the Libyans should be allowed to decide their fate on their own, but your belief that NATO will continue its involvement implies that without NATO the rebels would lose. Doesn't letting the Libyans fight it out amongst themselves come closer to letting the Libyans decide than having NATO continue its devastation of the country?
What I meant by the fact that NATO would continue its mission to protect civilians. That's it.
But it is continuing to bomb.
Well, I think that it's being, I think as has been the case throughout the 6 months, or throughout the 5 months that NATO has been involved in this, they've been very careful in terms of the targeting, and that I don't think that there's been many instances where one could argue that the NATO mission has veered much from, number one, making sure that there was a no-fly zone, and number two, that its main mandate of protecting civilians was honored most of that time, or all of that time.
Ambassador Cretz, Jeff Ballou with Al Jazeera. You mentioned during your remarks you hope to be going back soon. Can you put a finer point on that? Because other countries have begun to set up their diplomatic establishments again. Do you know if you're going to be going back or anybody else is going to be back to set up the embassy?
Well, I think right now we have a very small team on the ground that is assessing the situation. As you know, our mission was torched along with the British, French, and Italians that night that Saif al-Arab was killed in a fit of apocalyptic rage by Gaddafi and his goons. So we're taking it. We've had Chris Stevens has been in Benghazi all this time. We're taking a very measured approach to our return. I expect us to be there as the days go on. I think you'll see an increased American presence, assuming that the security situation is stabilized even further, and that we can find facilities in which to house our people.
Ali Abu Zakuk. I'm a Libyan American, and I'm proud of being Libyan and being American. And I would like to state it here for the fact that without the interference of the alliance and then of NATO, we would not have achieved getting rid of Gaddafi for the sake of the whole world. My question is to Ward. Libya in 1949 and 1951, the United Nations played a great role in building it. Adrian Belt is a great scholar and a great politician who every Libyan loves until today and adores. Today is the remaking of second Libya, second independence of Libya. I think the United Nations, and I'm asking you as the ambassador of the United States, is to push that the United Nations play the same role of rebuilding Libya politically and seeing that the program of political rebuilding will be there for sure. And it is very much respected because of the 1970-1973 resolutions. My questions to you, Ambassador Cretz. I was in Libya, I just came last week, and they were asking me, who is going to pay for the NATO expenses? That has never been clearly explained in the media or in other places. And I know it's a sensitive one. And the second one is the rebuilding of the country needs to rebuild the civil society, needs to build the media, needs to build the educational systems and so on. And that is a great role for the United States to play. I hope to tell us what kind of plans you have for that. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the UN role, I'll let my colleague Mark Ward address that because he's been hooked up with Ian Martin for quite a while. But it's clear that since the start of this, the international community has placed great faith in the UN, certainly in the Secretary General, in his representative, Minister Khatib from Jordan, and certainly now with Ian Martin, who's on the ground in Libya as we speak. The question of paying for NATO expenses, I mean, this has come up. Several congressmen have asked me, will we ask for reimbursement? This is a question that very complex. It'll have to be dealt with at a later time. I mean, I think there's a certain recognition that let's let the TNC get established before issues like this and other ones that I'm sure you're well aware of will come up in the bilateral relationship. Civil society and what role the United States will play, we certainly intend to do that. Mark Ward will be able to address that as well, because that is the area I think that we are going to be most effective and that we have the most comparative advantage with respect to other potential donors as well.